Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about the very controversial video game release coming from Sony PlayStation called The Last of Us Part 2. Last of Us, of course, has been talked about on and on all throughout this year because a lot of controversy has surrounded it. For good reason, too. The game finally came out about a week ago and it was definitely a letdown as we expected. The story was woke, the stuff didn't make sense. They took out one of our favorite main characters. And today I want to talk more specifically about the story and why it's so bad and why the ending is really, really bad. It's just an awful, awful premise. We don't need to go all fully in depth. I'm not going to talk about the whole game. There will be spoilers, though. Most of you already probably know them. If you don't, if you haven't played yet, you've had your chance. You can click away. But I think you're going to want to hear what we have to say because this is going to go over not only Last of Us Part 2, but we're going to talk about the first game a little bit and give you guys a little bit of a lead in and just talk about why the story and the points, they just don't make sense. And today we're also going to turn away and not focus on the social justice warrior like woke aspects to it. There's of course a new alphabet character and a lot of signs of anti-fatherhood, anti-male messages in here. But that's not the focus of today. That stuff's still there, but we're just talking about how bad this story is. Like it's really, really terrible. And it all comes back to a bad kind of questionable move they have at the end of the first Last of Us. Now, the first Last of Us game came out in 2013, and it's still a classic. It's still highly regarded, well liked, much beloved, but there are a few quirks to it. Like it's definitely not perfect. I wouldn't say it's a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 easy. A lot of people can agree on that score, but there were a few things, and this brings us to the ending of that game. So this ending actually ends up being very, very crucial to what happens in The Last of Us Part 2. So it's important to talk about it here. And basically, what happens is at the end of the first game, Joel has brought Ellie to their destination. They met up with this Firefly group. They're like a group of survivors trying to find a cure for this virus that has plagued the whole planet. We're in a post apocalyptic world, of course. There's zombies running all over the place. And at the end of the game, Joel hands over Ellie, this girl he's been protecting the whole time, basically becomes like his daughter. They're like a father daughter relationship. They get really close. And what happens is he realizes these guys are going to kill Ellie. They're going to experiment on her and like cut her in half or whatever, and they can't keep her alive. So they're going to just kill her and use her for science experiments to try and make a cure. Joel, of course, is not on board with this, and it causes him to go on a rampage. And this is basically like the last sequence of the game. You fight your way through this Firefly base, and at the end, you see Ellie on a doctor's table, and there's, I think, three different people about to operate on her. They haven't cut her open yet. She's still alive. And Joel walks in, and this is the moment, and this is the pivotal part, because the first thing that comes up here is you can't get away without killing these doctors. Like, you don't have a choice. You have to kill the three people in order to save her and get out of there. But it's actually a very interesting way they set it up because it seems like you might be able to have the choice. I'll let you check out some clips from it. This is a tweet that tweeted about the end of the first game, and it foreshadowed some of the second game because they kind of piggybacked onto this scene. So basically, Joel walks in, and then there's doctors about to operate. There's Ellie on the table, and yeah, he right here you could see him trying to do something, and you can't really get out of this scene unless you kill them. So this guy's gonna eventually. He starts off by throwing this brick, which is really funny because it doesn't do anything. Like, the guy doesn't move at all. And then the next part is this is where it gets weird. Like, you try to just injure them, but they die. So you shoot them in the foot. An arrow in the foot wouldn't kill you, but for some reason that guy just totally ragdolled and died. And then there's two more doctors. And here's where we get to the parts that influence the second game. Apparently, I think these two doctors, two of these three, are the parents of Abby from the second game. So these guys end up being more important characters than you think. They kind of get retconned or like expanded upon in the second game. I'm not sure if it's these two or the other two as a pair, but two of these people end up being the parents of Abby in part two. And that's the thing that kind of leads into where things start to go wrong. First of all, you don't have the option to do like a non-lethal playthrough here. Like, usually some games would have an option, but you have to kill these guys. Like, you can't even try. Like, this guy is showing this ending because it's just funny how the arrow to the foot kills them. Like, any shot on them just takes them out. You literally cannot move past this ending without taking these guys out. And this girl is crying, and they're apparently the parents of the new character in the next game. And yeah, you could just see there's no option. So that's where things get a little iffy. And then on top of that, these guys are the bad guys. Like, remember, these guys are about to kill Ellie. They're going to cut her up, which is another weird part about the ending. Like, I don't know why they couldn't like experiment on her in different ways, like draw some blood, like keep her alive. Like, I don't know why they immediately get Ellie and they have to kill her. Like, that seems strange. That seemed forced. And then the fact that you had to kill these doctors, you couldn't just run out with Ellie or injure them or something, put them in a sleeper hold. I don't know how they would pull that off, but this is the kind of part where things start to go downhill because you're forced to kill these guys in this scene. And then this killing is what motivates the whole second game. So, like I was saying, these two doctors have a kid, that's Abby, in the next game, and Abby becomes the villain. And it's just okay, it just gets really confusing. So that almost moves us to the second game. But to wrap this up, I mean, Joel is still in the right here. Like, they try to make this more ambiguous in the second game, but these guys are villains. The Firefly are going to kill Ellie. He's saving his surrogate daughter, and he's kind of trying to be the hero. And he had to kill a lot of them, but they were going to kill the girl. And it just he's in the right. That's the point. Is he's still a hero. He's still doing the right thing, even though he had to kill some people. And, these guys are the villains. And what happens in the next game is where it gets confusing because now it's like Abby, the daughter or son, whichever, the child of these doctors, is going for revenge on Joel. They know that Joel killed their parents. And what happens next is weird too because Abby's supposed to be made sympathetic. Like, Abby starts off as a villain in The Last of Us 2, and then you kind of play the character, and then later on by the end, you sympathize with them and kind of befriend them or something. I'm not like sure about that part, how far friendly they get, but essentially, to keep it in order, let's stay from the beginning. So Joel kills these doctors, saves Ellie, then the next game starts, and what happens is Joel is being hunted down by Abby. And Abby still seems like a villain to me because Abby is killing literally every Joel she meets. Like, they're going through and killing Joels willy-nilly. Like, that's what a crazy person does. That's what a serial killer does. I mean, that's what you don't like. There's obviously going to be other Joels out there. But anyway, they finally killed the right Joel, which to me is another villain move. Like, Joel wasn't evil here. He was doing the right thing. He was saving his friend, his daughter, his surrogate daughter. And yeah, he's not a bad guy. And they make him all of a sudden like he's like ambiguous, like he has this kind of mixed anti-hero vibe. And then Abby is supposed to be made a hero, but Joel was justified. Like, Joel was saving them. Like, Abby's parents were bad people that were going to kill some kid. And then now Abby goes on a killing spree and kills all the Joels. And then she kills this Joel while Ellie watches. And that's where things just really get out of control. Now we're in The Last of Us 2. We're in the middle of that. And it just totally doesn't make sense because now Abby is like evil, but then she's supposed to be the hero at some point. You're supposed to like identify with them. And then the other thing is you play as Abby for like half of that game. And then we get to the ending of the new game. And that's where the story really falls off because there's an also part of the game where you're playing as Ellie. It's like half Ellie, half Abby. And Abby is the bad guy like the whole time, and Ellie wants to avenge Joel. But in the end, at the end of Last of Us 2, they don't do it. She gives up. She stops. Ellie starts to sympathize with Abby, and they're like friends or something at the end. She doesn't avenge Joel, which is like the most messed up part because, like we said, we went over the Last of Us 1, and Joel would do anything for Ellie. He would have killed or saved or whatever he could have done. He gave his life. He would have done anything. And then in return, Ellie just backs out and like goes along with the person that killed Joel. It's super messed up. And this is like the real core of what's wrong with this series and these new games. Like, they just totally missed the mark. And I think it's influenced by a lot of woke stuff and a lot of politics. Like, they wanted to take down the patriarchy. So they had a alphabet character sort of destroy the main male character. But more importantly, it's bad storytelling and like mixed messages. Also, like, just forced situations. Like I said, it would make sense if there was an option. It would make more sense if there was an option in the first game to not kill these guys. Like I was saying, like if there was some way to just kind of have a killless ending, like if you could just, knock them out. Like the guy tried to throw a brick in this video. Like, why couldn't you just knock him out and walk away with Ellie? if that was an option and then you chose the evil route of killing them, like that would be a little different, but there's no option. Like they force you into this, which was a bad choice. And then on top of that, they make this choice to take out the doctors like a pivotal part and the main motivation in the second game, which it's good to have that kind of motivation and a backstory, and expanding on these characters wasn't a bad idea either. Like it gives it a little more depth and it's well connected to the first game. But the problem is they messed with Abby too much. Like Abby should have just been full-fledged villain, not like sympathetic villain that turns into the hero. Like that was the weird part. Like, oh, we want to see two sides to this alphabet person. Like we can't make them bad guy forever. Like in my mind, if they would have done it better, is keep Joel in The Last of Us 2, keep Abby in that story. That's fine too. Just don't kill Joel in the beginning. Like take out the Abby stuff. We don't want to play as Abby. Bring Joel back in and fight against Abby and take down the villain at the end. That's what people want. That's what you want in your video game. You want to have a heroic kind of very straightforward kind of ending. Sometimes you want a little complexity too, and it's interesting. There's a good story in the first one that kept you hooked, but it was also very basic. Like we're just talking about a standard kind of zombie story, and they kind of duffed it up at the end. They brought in the Abby stuff. They try to make you sympathize with this villain too much. And that's basically why The Last of Us 2 has a really bad story and an even worse ending. And a bad ending for like a favorite character with Joel. Like Joel should have been in the new game. They should have had Abby stayed as the villain. Like I'm fine with that. Like I don't care. Like no one is saying we can't have alphabet characters at all. But what's annoying is when the alphabet characters get treated special, they get this kind of like special treatment in the story, like they're killers, but we're not supposed to think they're a villain, even though they're doing villainous things. And then at the end, we don't even take out the villain because we feel sorry for them because they're alphabet. Like that part needs to go. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think about The Last of Us Part 2 and all this story stuff below. I want to know if you played the game, if you thought the story was as bad as I did, and what could have been fixed to make this better. Also, hit that like button to get this video shared. Subscribe if you're new. Check out the NoBS News second channel. And until next time, have a great day.